So for anyone who doesn't know, could you perhaps sort of tell us about your background, Ellie, up until sort of the formation of the first BilinguaSing, perhaps, and sort
Yes.
of your journey, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a school teacher. So I studied languages. I studied French and Spanish at university. Then I became a school teacher, starting with secondary. So I did my first sort of 5 years of my teaching career in the secondary classroom. And then I moved from Leeds down to Maidenhead, Windsor, Maidenhead area, where they have a middle school system. So that sort of, I transitioned quite gradually through the middle school system into primary. So I had a role in a middle school in Windsor teaching languages. And then I realised how much I enjoyed teaching younger children. So I was able to quite easily then transition into primary. And then when I had my first child, my daughter, in 2012, I just decided I didn't want the sort of a career anymore that was dictated to me anymore. You know, I wanted to have the flexibility and freedom to choose what my priorities were. And I know that, you know, teaching, as much as I loved teaching children, the job was changing, the demands were changing, things weren't feeling great. Like the profession, there's so much. It's quite a stressful profession, yeah. And sometimes I felt like things were out of my control, and I would feel like I had to do something by a certain time in a certain way, and I didn't want something that would get in the way of me being the best parent I could be. And I think I was approaching the 10-year mark, and I thought I've had a great 10 years. I think I always knew I'd do something different and that I wouldn't always be employed. I just knew that I wanted to give entrepreneurship a go, and I dabbled with a few things, you know, tuition business and things like that. But the idea for BilinguaSing came thanks to my daughter. So 2012, 2013, I started attending lots of baby classes with her, music classes, swimming, baby yoga. And I just didn't even know this world existed. I know that there's been a massive boom in the last decade of kids classes, but back then, we're talking almost 10 years ago, it really had just exploded, you know. And I just thought, wow, I had no idea there was this like whole new world just happening on my doorstep of all these classes that mums were going to and dads were going to with their little ones. And that's how I made my sort of mum circle of friends, just by going to all these different things. And the idea, just sort of like the seed of an idea was planted, I suppose, through that phase of my life and my new baby daughter, and experiencing this world with her. I'm just seeing a gap. I saw a gap in the market for languages for babies. That's where it began. And, you know, a lot of people think it's crazy. Why would you introduce a new language to a baby? They can't even speak. But I was just fascinated. I really wanted to bring up my children bilingually. So, and it's not the easiest thing to do when it's not your mother tongue and your partner doesn't speak another language either. So I just read up a lot on this, and I saw, like, the research showed that babies between the age of 0 to 6 months, if you can introduce them or expose them to another language during that window of their development, some amazing things happen with the brain. It develops new grey matter. It connects all these neurons. I mean, I'm no scientist, but I just loved delving into this research. And it's very misunderstood. Like, language learning in the UK is so misunderstood anyway. It's we don't perhaps value it enough or appreciate it enough. And I know I've got a strong bias here. You know, my perspective on languages is not that common in the UK, but I've always felt like I'm fighting for something I believe in, and I'm passionate about giving children opportunities to learn languages. So I will be on my soapbox a little bit about that, because it's something I really believe in. So the idea came of like, how can I create this class where babies can absorb this in a really natural way, before they can even grasp anything, so they're not going to be able to grasp an instrument or do anything. So I trained as a baby yoga teacher, just to learn more about that stage of development, because I taught from age 4 all the way up to 18, but I didn't know that much about baby development. So that's sort of, I kind of got those skills, and then I put music with it, and then I put the language with it, and I trialed it in my local area, and it just went down so well that I just knew then that I had something. So.
Wow, yeah, it sounds like you had that lovely sort of blend of a passion and then a niche and then timing for you as well. Just after your first kid, everything sort of came together.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really thanks to that my daughter was born, and with that was an idea was born. Well, that's now become my business that I've been running now since 2013. Launched it.
Awesome. And so how did you go from, as you say, you trialed it in your local area, and then how did you go from that level to suddenly, you then maneuver it into a larger thing, and then you take the step or the decision to consider a franchise model? How did that materialize, and how did that sort of develop?
Yeah, I'll start by saying it was very intentional. Okay. I know that lots of people go it alone, and then the idea of what is franchising and how would I do this? How would I go from where I am now to franchising it? That wasn't the case for me. I always knew, like, if I'm going to do this, I need to do this big, on a big scale, because I was investing a lot into it. I wrote a lot of the songs we use, aside from traditional nursery rhymes, but and rooted singers in the native languages, and this kind of stuff, this kind of thing doesn't come cheap. And everything I was earning, I was plowing back in. And when you're doing that, you think this has to I'm putting all this into it. It's very franchisable. And did I know what franchising was at the time? Not until I started going to these classes, which themselves, most of them were franchises. So I was in a class and observing a franchise model in action. So I was learning from that, and I would look on their websites and think, oh, okay, so this is, they're all doing the same thing in different towns and different locations. So from there, that was always in my mind. So everything I did fairly intentionally. And everything else, it was, and how scalable is this? And how can I be different and better than the competition? Other language class providers were doing things perhaps in a similar way to each other. So I had to be different. So when we say, the name BilinguaSing came about because, well, it's a truly bilingual class. We do things, all of the songs are presented in English and the foreign language. So you hear it in English and then the verse is repeated in the foreign language. That for me was important, because I knew, as an exhausted mum who'd been up all night with a teething baby, to be confronted by a foreign language, you're kind of narrowing your market if you think that, it's only going to be people who are already keen or already speak a language or have a real motivation to learn the language that will want to come along. Because when you've had 2 hours sleep and then somebody starts babbling away in a language you don't understand, it can make you feel really vulnerable, and you're already feeling vulnerable. So I really had the head of a new mum on, because I was experiencing that with my clients, alongside them. And I thought, well, how can I make this not intimidating? Because language learning can be seen as very intimidating. And putting the English in there was my IP, my USP, because no one else was doing that. You know, it's truly bilingual. The songs are bilingual. We use English and the foreign language together in partnership to facilitate understanding. Because if you're stressed out, you can't really learn, and you won't want to come back. You know, and I wanted to reach people who would never have thought of learning a language before. Many of our customers had really negative experiences of language learning at school and just thought, oh, there's no way, I'm just so bad at languages. And they'd labeled themselves in that way, and they'd come along and realize, no, I'm not. It was the way I was learning. It was the way it was being taught. It wasn't, you know, it didn't work for me, but they'd come to our classes, and the parents would become as engaged as the children. And it just was that, for me, you know, made it really special, you know, and different. So that was one of the USPs, the English supporting the language. And then the other USP that other classes weren't doing was we did it purely through music. We do it purely through music. So, you know, we'll have like 8 or 10 songs in a class. We'll start with a hello song. Then there's a little bit of a piece to get a little journey, little story built with, you know, with songs. And then we do a goodbye song at the end. And that is always the way we do it. And that's, yeah, so that's another thing that makes us very, very different. We're not just a language class, we're a music class, we're a sensory class. We do a bit of everything in that class. So parents who are thinking, do I do this or do I do that? They come to us because they get it all with us. Yeah. So, yeah, so, you know, that my journey into franchising was intentional, and I was very much thinking with how am I going to franchise this, and why would somebody want to buy my franchise and not another language franchise? And it went from there. And it's funny because I didn't use any consultants. I didn't. I knew what I wanted to do, but I just sought advice from sources I could find online. I went to a few seminars, and I was told, you know, categorically, Ellie, you can't franchise your business until you've been going for at least 2 years. And I was like, really? Well, just watch me then. Yeah. So after about a year, I just decided, right, I'm going to just pop a page on my website. It's a very homemade website at the time, looking back, saying, you know, I was looking for franchisees, and I ran a pilot franchise, if that's even a term, for individuals who came through. I don't think you can do that in 2022, to be quite honest. Back then, you could literally pop something up on a web page and Google would grab it within a day, and it would be really easy to find. So incredibly, 4 ladies came forward, raised their hand, I want to do this. And they did their due diligence. They were like, obviously this is brand new. And I'm like, well, yeah, reflected in the price. You know, we charge a lot more today. And it was just having a chat with them and building a relationship with them and giving them some time to mull things over. We had quite a simple, straightforward contract drawn up. We didn't have the funds to go to to go all out and get, you know, to the biggest franchise lawyer, you know, that you see all the time at these franchise shows. We had a simple but fair contract. We had a set price, and those 4 ladies joined. And up until the end of 2021, 3 out of the 4 were still with us from that pilot, which was a 2-year contract. So one of them, it was just personal circumstances. They changed and she was moving. So she joined us and she stuck with us for about 3 years. And then of the 3 others, they're now in their 7th or 8th year. Seventh year. It's been 7 years since we launched that pilot. And sadly one of the 3 remaining people, she's now gone back to the corporate world. Her children are old. Obviously the 7 years she's been with us were fantastic, and we really miss her. We will really miss her. But you know, it suited her at a stage in her life where she didn't want to be commuting and not being there for her kids. So for 7 years she was a really successful franchisee. She did great. We were gutted to lose her, but it was just about life, you know, life circumstances, and things change. But 7 years, I think, is a pretty good innings.
Yeah.
And that says a lot about our relationships with our franchisees. You know, it was it's a relationship like any other, and it was a very happy one with her. And you know, we'll stay in touch, and the other 2 are still with us, going, you know, they'll be going into their 8th year, you know, at some point soon. And we're really proud of that. You know, that says a lot about how we relate to our franchisees. We treat them as a family. So yeah, so we've gone from there now to, we're not massive, you know. You think in all of that time I could have 100 franchisees. We're not. There's a reason for that. It's been very slow organic growth. And I was pregnant with my 2nd child when I did this, when I launched the pilot, and I've since had another baby, so who's now 3.
Wow.
I've got 3 young kids, and it was never meant to be. I'm not out to, like, you could absolutely, you know, go to town and like grow your business really much more quickly than I have. But I did it at a pace that I was happy with people with the right people. And my sister's part of the franchise network as well, and she's my right-hand person. So it's very much a family thing. It's grown organically quite deliberately, because I have not wanted to. I've been very mindful about why I went into it. I didn't want to swap one kind of stressful job and create another one for myself. So yeah, I mean, now that my 3rd child is going to start school in September, I will have a bit more freedom, perhaps to put more into it in terms of marketing it. But and we're really well positioned to do that, because we've done things very carefully, very intentionally, very mindfully, and all of our infrastructure is there. And it's been a really, really exciting, interesting journey. We've been able to do things that I just would never have imagined. You know, we're part of the Kickstart scheme, so we've had 13 young people do 6-month placements with us. So it's been a way of like really helping in the community and giving, you know, helping young people who would otherwise just be unemployed, you know, because of the pandemic. That's been really rewarding. So that's little offshoots. You know, I never expected that to come our way, but it's been like the most rewarding thing I've ever done, you know. And yeah, and I'm proud of that, you know, that we've been able to do things like that. I know that's not really a franchising thing necessarily, but when you are if you decide to take the step of, you know, franchising your business, whether that's kids classes or something else, then that does become, then you're going pro, if you like, and you're suddenly, you're doing things on a different level, and it does open up opportunities. It adds responsibility, but it's also opened so many opportunities to us that otherwise we would have been, you know, perhaps dismissed. We wouldn't have been able to really access. So yeah, it served me and my family. It serves my sister and her family and all the women. They are all female at the moment. We're not biased. And we're hopefully taking on our first male franchisee in Canada soon, which is fantastic. But it's served everyone at a time in their life where they need that kind of balance and flexibility. And that's normally why people want to do it. So think about, if you're thinking of doing franchising your business, think about your ideal. It's another way. You've got to think, well, who's my ideal client for the franchise, and what problems are they facing, and what could this solve for them? And that's where then you market to that person. You know, for me, it's typically mums, but not always, who don't want to go back to work after they've had their first child. That's typical. Or it might be their kids have gone, they've stopped working, but their kids have now gone to school and they've got time to start something of their own. Or but we're looking at the graduate market as well now. So we've, having worked with these Kickstarters, these young people, we've realised that actually, it's really well suited to graduates as well. So yeah, there's rarely one type of person, but there's often a pattern, and then it helps to know. It helps to be targeted, because obviously when it comes to marketing, if you try to speak to all people, then you end up speaking to nobody. Yes, I don't know if that's helpful, but
it's incredibly helpful. And I think you say you almost didn't want to say that you were proud of what you've achieved, but I think it's no mean feat to start a business, let alone grow one, especially when you have children, right? It's a massive life shift, and you've put yourself in the shoes of people, and you've lent onto a want and a demand, and I think that's extremely powerful. I think that, and as you say, I'm working with the other franchisors I've spoken to, often, as they say, has been mums that take on the franchises because it works with their work-life balance. That change in pattern fits into more of a groove for them. That's really interesting. So so how many? What's the current sort of running total of how many franchises you have at the moment? And then, as that's grown, how easy has it been, or challenging has it been to sort of maintain sort of visibility over how they're performing and those relationships? As you say, it's really important for you to have sort of a family feel, but also from a business point of view, you want to maintain standards and then also see how they're performing. So how's that been as it's grown steadily?
So we're around about, we always seem to be hovering lately around just below the 20 mark in terms of how many franchises we have. People, during the pandemic, we lost some because they were forced into, it was a really tricky market to be hit. The kids' activities market was hit really hard, and some people just couldn't, they had to, get other jobs, or but we also recruited during that time, because some people found, I don't want to go back. I've had all this time working from home. I want to have more autonomy. And so we're around about the, I think we're at 17 at the moment. And what's, I think the place you want to be at is you want to be able to support, like, I know now that whether it's 17 or 70, our infrastructure can support that without too much extra stress, because we've designed it that way. Whereas I think the pandemic has done a lot of that, to be honest, because we had to do so much online. So whereas, if you like, in the olden days, in the pre-pandemic days, if we had a bunch of franchisees who wanted to join us, we would go through this process of, okay, what weekend are we all free? And we'll all meet in Warwickshire and we'll do the training over the course of the weekend. Always great fun, always, really nice to do that face to face. But it's not, for us, it wasn't very a scalable model, because it's very, imagine trying to train 10 people in that way, or, and we hadn't, I'll be honest, we hadn't nailed our marketing at all. It was all, like I said to you, it's very organic. So we didn't have this steady stream of people knocking on the door to join, because we really hadn't got that system down. So when somebody wanted to join who was a great fit, we would be like, we'll do anything to make this work, and we always, and it could feel quite, not stressful as such, but we'd always have somebody who couldn't make it on that weekend, and then they might lose interest and go somewhere else. So during the pandemic, we we sort of addressed this issue by we did have people wanting to join us, and I recorded just all of our training. My sister and I, between us, recorded you know, all the content that we would normally deliver on that weekend. We've got it all recorded, and people can access that now, you know, with a login. And it's not the same as face to face, but then again, it's much more efficient, and it's much more, they can go back over anything that they've missed, because the weekends were like content overload for you know, for a newbie. And I know that some franchises do 5-day trainings. You know, we were never, you know, we were like, we've got young families, we can't do that, but you know, we would support them remotely. We'd give them all the info at the weekend, support them remotely beyond that, and have an annual catch-up conference. That was the face-to-face time that we would put into it. And this is just better because they can rewatch things, you know, or can watch it at the right time, because a lot of it, you know, a lot of what we were delivering, they didn't necessarily need all of that information right there and then, but they needed to know about it, you know, so they can sort of have more of a, I need this now, and I need to do this by next week, so I can like delve into that unit. Or so that's improved things. And it also means that people we can onboard anyone at any time. There's no, you know, there's no doodle links going crazy trying to get everyone to be same place at the same time. So that's really helped. And you know, we're a Zoom world now, aren't we? So my sister's Mel is head of training and support for franchisees, so she has a weekly Zoom where anyone can just, you know, well, for our new ones particularly, it's an expectation that they join one Zoom call a week with Mel, and Mel will help them. The idea is we want you to launch your first class and get your first client in that 3-month period. And everyone does, you know, but in the past with the old model, we would just let sort of franchisees contact us when they needed us, and then some of them would like be struggling and not come forward. So this way, Mel is available and everyone knows that they can access that support, you know, remotely. And then it means if anyone is struggling, we pick that up and we can support them and, you know, bolster them up, and, you know, so that has really helped. And so now we've done that. Now we're a bit more on it with our marketing. I think because we've got more time, because of the way we do things now, it's like, well, we've now got the time to do this. We've got, you know, we've got a great virtual assistant who's worked in the franchise industry. She's taken a lot of the load off us as well. So she does all like contracts and financial bits and pieces for us. So that we've sort of offloaded that. The training's kind of offloaded or systemized much better. And there's not, you know, once you've got that nailed, it's much easier then to go, right, what really needs to be done? Well, we need X amount of leads, because now I can see, you know, I've got a bit more of a handle on conversion data and all of that stuff. And we've got our marketing, you know, sorted. Whereas I think it was all a bit hit and miss before, you know, young families, big juggle, and the training was always a big logistical headache. And we were just like sort of firefighting some of the time, doing all the things in our business and not outsourcing things. So I think as soon as you can outsource something, I would do that, you know, because otherwise you're not focusing on what really matters, that, you know, how you're not focusing on your business growth. You're just thinking, well, you know, what's the most pressing, urgent thing that someone else needs me to do, and I need to get them off my back, you know. So it might be financial or accounts, or it might be, you know, paying invoices for your, you know, if you're renting a hall or something like that. All those things take up so much time, yet you don't need to do them. If you're leading a franchise network, you shouldn't be doing those things. So just as soon as you can, get someone to do those things for you so that you can focus on your business and not be in it all the time. You know, I don't teach at all now. I mean, very rarely. And that's been a conscious decision as well. You know, it was a hard one because I love teaching, but it's also, I can't be all things to all people. And, you know, my role is to grow the business. It's to grow the business. And my sister's role is to support, and it's customer, you know, our franchises are our customers. They've got now my sister's a dedicated support role to them, and it's like anything that they're worried about, she helps them. So we're much more specialized. You know, I'm the marketing and business growth person now with the big ideas, you know, about the vision and where we're going. And like, I found it really hard to label myself a CEO and all of these, you know, I'm just the founder, you know, but I am the CEO. I'm the visionary person.
Yeah, right.
And my sister's a natural, I hate detail, and like, you know, my sister's a natural nitty. She gets, you know, rolls her sleeves up, gets stuck in with the franchisees and gives them all that support. And she's very, very good at that. She's also really good at detail and making sure nothing falls through the cracks. And she's probably not so good at marketing, or, you know, so we've kind of, we work with our strengths. And I really believe that that's important, that you identify your strengths, and it's okay to not be good at all things to be a franchise. Or, you know, I believe that we've all got certain skills and talents, and we shouldn't worry about our weaknesses, just outsource them.
Yeah.
You know, I think you can get stuck in this, like, I can't franchise my business because I'm really bad with numbers, or I can't franchise my business because I haven't got the time because I'm teaching all the time. And if that is the case, but you would, you know, part of you is really niggling and you feel like you would like to do it, then ask yourself, are you okay with not teaching? And would it be nice to be, as you can see, I'm just at home all the time. And is that, you know, would that be okay for you? You know, do you have a vision of, do you see yourself having an office where you've got employees? You know, I never really wanted that. I didn't want the responsibility or overheads, and I've kept it quite simple. You know, we have freelancers mainly in the business, and we have got employees at the moment, but that's through the Kickstart scheme, and that's temporary. So will we grow to that stage at some point? Maybe, but you can have a lean, mean business that, you know, that you run from a home, and you can minimize your overheads. This kind of business, you know, a lot of kids class businesses, any kind of class business, the likelihood is you don't have any fixed premises. So that's a real bonus. You know, you can have a really lean machine of a business if you don't have massive overheads. So, you know, it's, I mean, I have no regrets over franchising. And I know that some, you know, there were times in the beginning where I felt a bit out of my depth, I won't lie. Anything new feels like that. But then as a school teacher, I'd felt out of my depth a lot of the time too. You know, it's just one of those jobs where you know, and everyone feels like a bit of an imposter, don't they, when they get started with something new. And I think it's being out of your comfort zone a little bit, you know, and that's okay. You know, I'm someone who, you know, I'm big on personal growth, and I think if I'm not growing and challenging myself, I don't know, it's like grow or die, you know. You've got to, I love a new challenge. So, you know, this isn't my only business. I've got a coaching business as well now. So I coach teachers who want to take their first steps out of teaching and start a business. And so that's been a, you know, an exciting new venture as well, and something that's really close to my heart as well. If you've got something that's special and it's got something unique about it, and people are raving, if you've got some raving fans, and you know, who had customers telling me you've got to franchise this, and I was like, when your customers are telling you that, you know,
do it.
Why not? And it is a way of creating a freedom lifestyle. You know, if you're happy with the idea of stepping away from the day to day, and like, I could live anywhere in the world, and do my job and be a franchisor. I don't need to be anywhere at any given time. And that's fantastic. Like, for me, that's the dream. So I suppose I feel like really fortunate, and I feel that, you know, to have that freedom of choice, even though I live in Maidenhead. It's not the most exciting place in the world. But if my husband were willing, and we have this, like, you know, conversation quite a lot, we could up sticks, take the kids, world school them. It just gives you that freedom and flexibility of choice. We don't do anything like that at the moment. But I like feeling like options are there. I don't like feeling trapped. I feel, and I think a job can do that, I suppose, depending what you do. You can feel like you're dictated to, I suppose, to a degree. And even my franchisees come on board because they want that freedom. They want to say, well, I only want to work between 10 and 2, 3 days a week, because I have other things I want to do. I want to be there for my kids. I want to do all the pickups, all the drop-offs. And, you know, I might like to fit in a bit of, you know, a yoga class a couple of times a week, and not in the evenings because I've got young children and that's tricky. Or, and it does give you that freedom. And I think that's the appeal of being a franchisor, or even a franchisee. I mean, obviously, being a franchisee, you're often doing the delivery of that as well. So you do need to be, you know, around. You do need to have a stable presence in your town or wherever it is that you're delivering your franchise. But, you know, even franchisees can implement, you know, with some of our franchises, we've got teachers that run the classes, and that's freed up the franchisee in the same way that I'm sort of location free myself. We've got one, for example, who's gone into a new career as a paramedic, and she's kept her franchise going through her teachers, and she's been able to retain that. So she's got a business and a shiny new career that she's really passionate about. And, you know, some franchisors wouldn't like that, but I think it's fantastic. I'm like, wow, if my franchise model has enabled her to leave a career, bring some income in for a family, which has helped facilitate her new career and still keep that going, I think that's fantastic, you know. And, you know, I know you asked me about how do we oversee and control. I'm probably on the, you know, a bit lefty in that. I kind of, we have got like a firm contract, but I do build in, and I've recently rewritten that contract to give more freedom to my franchisees, but also we've got this monthly set fee now. So it's like, if you decide to do less, then I'm afraid the fee's still the same. But as long as you're still running some classes and you want to do something else on the side of that, that's okay. Not many franchisors would do that. So, you know, you think about what kind of franchisor you want to be as well, and how you manage that, because there are many franchises that are quite firm. This needs to be your full-time thing. And there's, like, you know, there's pros and cons of both approaches. But I listen. I'm very in tune with what my own values are and what feels good, feels right, you know. And I've gone against the grain with quite a few things in my business because it feels right, as opposed to doing what the norm is. So we don't always toe the line and do things just because, most franchises do. And that's maybe just think about what kind of franchisor you see yourself being, and if you are someone who wants to grant more freedoms and more autonomy, then just think of what limits and boundaries you put in place to make sure that is respected and not taken advantage of, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. I think you've aligned it with your core beliefs, right? And then
Absolutely.
Maintains your sort of investment in the business emotionally, as well as, you know, from a business point of view. I'm mindful of time, Ellie, because I know that you have to. My one final question, I guess. What do you envisage, or what's your, like, ideal sort of plans for the next couple of years for BilinguaSing? Like, let's say the pandemic has gone away now, and you can have a bit of stability and clarity. And what's your sort of plans going forward?
Well, we're about to recruit our 13th final Kickstarter. So that's been important, and that is, you know, the scheme is ending soon. So we'll be still, but because we're about to recruit our final one, we'll be involved with that scheme until they finish their placements. That will take us through to sort of, you know, the summer to August. So that's a key focus. But the purpose of being involved in that is twofold. It's not just to help them, it's also to help us. And it's really helped us to kind of get things tied up and finish all these different projects that we had in the air that we couldn't previously prioritize. So we're positioned well for growth now, and we would like to grow the business much more quickly now, this year, and we're hoping to grow at around 12 franchisees per year.
Okay.
So one per month would be fantastic. That's what we're looking to do, and we're about to onboard somebody, hopefully 2 new people, this month.
Brilliant.
So we're on target. we're on the right path. So you know, some franchisors want to do that every month. You know, 12 per month. For me, I'm like, what do I want this to do for my life? Do I want to have this huge network and it to be like, you know, a huge focus, or do I want to grow, you know, at a pace which we can absolutely sustain without much more time and effort being put in, and what, you know, and what's that going to do for myself and my sister financially, and does that all align for me, and is that okay? And like that would, for me, would tick every single box. So I'd be happy with that. And we've also introduced 2 new languages. In fact, we started doing that just before the pandemic, but we were still completing the music on that because of so many interruptions with COVID. So Italian and German are quite new and exciting for us. And that is another USP, because not all language class providers do offer French, or they all offer French and Spanish pretty much, but not that many offer Italian and German. So that's going to be a key focus as well, you know, that we can offer something to German and Italian speakers that perhaps other franchises can't. So we're hoping to grow, to grow that part of it, and have more coverage in the UK, especially with Italian and German. And that's it. Those are my big, you know, top level goals for the year, and how, you know, we've got our plans in place for how we hope to do that, and that's pretty much it. Those are my goals. You know, we've done a lot of the things that we wanted to, you know, to do, and we've got our Kickstarters to help us complete projects that have been outstanding. We're working with a book publisher as well to have a book of our rhymes, and then with a nice little QR code where they can scan to get the songs, and then they can do children at home. So little partnerships. I think growing partnerships is going to be a focus for us as well. So so that's awesome. It. Those are our goals. You know, I don't have too many goals. I don't think. I think it's important to know your goals. If you've got too many, then you end up forgetting. So
that's right. Awesome. Thank you, Ellie. I really appreciate that.